There were exactly 12 suitors waiting in the throne hall of the Obsidian Ark, each flanked by servants bearing ceremonial gifts, power packs, and holographic marriage contracts. One suitor came in a shimmer of liquid diamond, offering a moon carved into her likeness. Another, a floating brain encased in gold, a representative of the collective mind of Saravath, proposed a neural fusion that would eliminate loneliness through synchronized consciousness. Verena listened, half-lidded, seated on a hovering throne composed entirely of singing stones, mined from a collapsed star. She nodded occasionally, the same way one might nod at passing meteorites, briefly and without emotional investment. When the 12th suitor began reciting a poem about her formidable femoral authority, she raised one white-gloved hand, and the entire recitation evaporated into static. Her voice followed, low and surgical. Next! The suitors exchanged glances, but none stepped forward. They knew what came after next. A void ship opened behind them, silent and predatory, and without further debate, all 12 proposals were politely discarded into the vacuum of space, along with the poets, gifts, and singing holograms of affection. The Obsidian Ark resumed its silent course through the thermic drift. In the privacy of her command chamber, Verena removed her crown, flicking it across the console like a disinterested god flicking a pebble into a black hole. The artifact hovered in midair, suspended by the anti-grav field, and spun gently. Her long ears twitched in mild annoyance. She pressed her knuckles into her temples. 12 suitors, all boring, and one brain in a jar with boundary issues. A voice chimed in. Technically, Your Majesty, the brain was a member of a respected pan-galactic intelligence. Quiet, Olrox, she said. The ship's AI obeyed, except for a final whisper. Still, statistically, you are running out of unique kingdoms to reject. She ignored him. At her command, the holomap spread across the room. Planetary systems spun into view. Thousands of worlds cataloged, categorized, and beneath her. Her fingers slid across star charts like a pianist teasing an overture out of silence. One planet blinked at her. It was small, unimpressive, and marked in yellow. Earth, Class D biosphere, resource rating, mediocre, cultural threat level, occasionally amusing. The scan logs flickered. One video file caught her eye. A man-human yelling at a robot during what appeared to be a disaster evacuation. He was covered in soot, shouting over the screech of an alarm. You're not helping anyone with that laser arm unless you're grilling hot dogs, so either start cooking or get out of the way. She raised a brow. Another clip. The same man duct taping an alien mercenary to a wall, muttering, "You break that water filter again. I swear I'll make you listen to my aunt's kazoo recordings." Another. He danced in a muddy crater with 3 children and a goat, singing something about pudding and interspecies friendships. Her lips curved, only slightly. Olrock's identity. Elias Calder. Human. No formal military training. Voluntary planetary relief worker. Psych profile. Mild anxiety. Sarcasm-based coping mechanisms. A statistically improbable number of near-death experiences. Notably bad at poker. He duct-taped a warlord. Correct. While singing. She narrowed her eyes at the flickering image. There was nothing special about him at first glance. Dark hair, average build, no visible augmentations. But something about him stood out. Maybe it was the way he moved like someone who forgot the universe could crush him. Or maybe it was how he ignored power, even when it shouted at him. Schedule observation. Stealth class. No contact. Would that be no contact like the time you spent 3 months on Zarakul 4 observing that chef? She pretended not to hear him. The Ark shifted its heading. Somewhere in the void, diplomatic messages were drafted, threats of war were issued and retracted, and ambassadors resigned in creative ways. Verena remained unbothered. She watched the human again. This time he was laughing as he wrestled with a malfunctioning hydration drone. The drone was winning. 3 days later, her boots hit dirt. She wore a toned-down version of her armor, something breathable, something she could move in. She had not set foot on a planet without a military escort in 80 years. The last time, it ended with 5 dead senators and a formal apology written in plasma across a city skyline. Earth smelled strange, like wet things and stubbornness. She adjusted her internal translator and approached the town's main square, where a storm had recently flooded the lowlands. People moved in frantic loops, hauling supplies, shouting across rivers of mud, coordinating rescues. The air buzzed with tension, insects, and low-level panic. She found him waist-deep in mud, trying to redirect a makeshift dam while balancing a radio, two toddlers, and what she presumed was either a very angry dog or a miniature bear. "You," she said. He didn't look up. "If you're here to sell me insurance or religion, I already bought both from a lizard in a trench coat. I'm from the outer territories of Zafari Cluster 9. He paused. "Well, good for Cluster 9. Now pick up that shovel and help me or get out of the way." She blinked. No salutes, no reverence, no fear, just orders. She picked up the shovel. An hour later, she was soaked, covered in mud, and inexplicably learning the Earth term for chest-high slop surprise. Elias finally looked at her, squinting. "You're not local, are you?" "My accent is flawless," she replied. "You said you were from a cluster." "I am." "Sounds made up." "All clusters are made up." He nodded as if that were reasonable. Then he offered her a protein bar and said, "Welcome to Earth. You're going to hate it." She did not eat the protein bar. She did, however, follow him back toward the supply depot. Around them, the chaos churned on, and for the first time in a decade, Queen Verena did not feel the crushing weight of her crown. Even without wearing it, she just didn't tell him who she was. Not yet. Let him think she was an off-world volunteer. Let him wonder. Let her wonder, too. Behind them, the sky grumbled with thunder. Somewhere in orbit, the Obsidian Ark's stealth sensors cataloged 12 possible diplomatic incidents and one unacceptable romance probability. And yet, Verena smiled. Or at least her mouth tried. It was a dangerous expression. The last time it appeared, 3-star systems changed governments. But this time, the reason was a muddy, mouthy human who couldn't aim a shovel straight. He looked over his shoulder. "Did you just smile? That wasn't evil, right?" "I do not smile." "Okay, you just threatened the air with your face. Got it." She picked up another shovel and stayed. The morning after the flood, Elias found her attempting to reassemble a wheelbarrow using what appeared to be advanced magnetic tools and absolutely no concept of leverage. She had dismantled the entire thing into its subatomic components. The wheel hovered midair, gently spinning. "That's definitely one way to make a wheelbarrow unusable," he said, blinking. "It was flawed. I improved it." "You vaporized it. It's more aerodynamic now." "It doesn't need to be aerodynamic. It needs to carry things." "Then the flaw is in its design," she muttered. Elias pointed to a dusty diagram posted on the wall of the shed. "That's how humans do it." Verena squinted at the primitive sketch, then at the crumpled mess of quantum reconfigured alloys. She sighed, not in defeat, but in some ancient royal expression of tolerance for peasant knowledge, and began again, this time with nuts, bolts, and a suspicious glare at the laws of physics. Elias watched her work, eating a granola bar and humming something called classic rock. She had no idea what it meant, but it sounded aggressive and deeply confused about minerals. After a minute, he handed her a wrench. She took it with mild suspicion. "You ever built anything before?" he asked. "I've constructed war fleets that blot out the stars," she replied. He nodded. "That's a no." They spent the day repairing what they could. Earth's infrastructure was laughably fragile. Primitive wiring, non-adaptive shelters, water systems made of rust and hope. And yet its people were stubborn. By nightfall, the generators were purring again, the temporary housing units blinking online, and children were chasing a malfunctioning cleaning droid that had developed a sense of musical purpose. She watched Elias explain fuel ratios to a teenager using empty soda bottles and a stick. He gestured wildly, knocking over a bucket, then blamed gravity. The teenager laughed. Verena leaned against a post, arms crossed, and wondered why watching this particular human wasn't tedious. He approached her later, offering a bowl of something vaguely edible. "Casserole. It's traditional. No one knows what's in it, and it's best not to ask." She stared into the bowl. "It's heterogeneous. That's part of the charm. I am highly trained against biological warfare." You'll do fine. She took a bite. She didn't die. She wasn't sure if that disappointed her. Ilya sat beside her on a creaky bench. They watched the fire pit in silence. Somewhere, someone played a guitar badly. The stars blinked overhead. She didn't speak for a long time. Neither did he. Eventually, he leaned forward. So, outer territories of Zephyr Cluster 9. That real? It exists on certain maps, she said carefully. Does that map also include your ability to hover off the ground? She raised a brow. I did not hover. You did. When the goat charged you, you levitated 2 feet, turned 90 degrees, and backed into a tree without moving your legs. Adrenaline! Right. There was another long pause. She considered vaporizing him for impertinence. Instead, she asked, Why are you here? He blinked. Because this is where the storm hit. Number mean here, Earth, a dead-end planet, no technological advancement, no defensive fleet, no high-value minerals. He shrugged. Because this is where people need help. She stared at him. You gain nothing from this. He shrugged again. I guess that's the point. That answer irritated her. It didn't compute. Altruism wasn't an unknown concept, but it was usually attached to propaganda or religious mandates, not mud-soaked humans with sarcasm and bad knees. The next day, she went with him to the supply depot. On the way, he pointed out points of interest with completely fictional histories. That's the great lamppost of enlightenment, he said, nodding at a broken streetlight. Legend says it flickers only when your soul's not at peace. She played along. And that dumpster? Shrine of lost sandwiches. Pilgrims come to honor forgotten lunches. She raised an eyebrow. You are not sane. You're just now figuring that out? The depot was a disaster. Boxes stacked in no discernible order. Items misfiled under confusing labels like importantish stuff and probably not explosive. Verena immediately began reorganizing. Within an hour, she had established a data grid, categorized inventory by molecular stability, and reprogrammed a forklift to hum soothing tones. Elias returned from the river, covered in algae. Did the depot gain sentience while I was gone? It is now marginally less inefficient. Did you name the forklift? It named itself. He stared at her. You're either a genius or a supervillain. Why not both? Later, the two of them found a moment beside the wrecked community center. She patched a solar conduit while he patched a wall with duct tape and mild profanity. Let me guess, he said. You're not just from Zephyr Cluster 9. You're something bigger. She didn't respond. Military? She said nothing. Royalty? Silence. Secret space cult? Her lips twitched. I knew it, he said. You've got that space cult leader energy. Mysterious, intense, terrible at wheelbarrows. She handed him a recharged power cell. Shovel. He saluted with the shovel. Yes, supreme leader of the cosmic casserole. They worked in silence again. This time the silence wasn't empty. It was full of something warm and strange. That night, her ship tried to contact her. Urgent report, Olrox intoned. 2 regional conflicts escalating. Your absence noted in the Senate. A suitor has declared war on your name. Minor Iles stood on the rooftop of the broken-down supply center, watching the lights of the distant city flicker like fireflies caught in a web. Behind him, the remnants of the day's work lay scattered. Rubble turned into bridges. Hopelessly irreparable things turned into something usable. The air smelled of burnt plastic and unspoken promises. Around him, Earth's disorganized chaos felt strangely whole. Olrox is getting impatient, Verena said, stepping out of the shadows behind him. Her silhouette was only partially visible, the dim moonlight catching the curve of her long ears and the edge of her cloak. The arc of her voice was a reminder of things larger than the ground they stood on, things that hadn't been touched by this planet's quiet madness. You going back up? He asked without looking at her. He already knew the answer. I have responsibilities, she replied, a tone of finality creeping into her voice. Sure, he said, tapping his fingers against the concrete. Big starships, conquering worlds, the usual. But before you go, what happens now? You leave, and I go back to pretending I know what I'm doing. Or, Verena was quiet for a moment, but it wasn't the uncomfortable silence it used to be. This one was different. threaded with the sound of things shifting. "I'm not going back," she said finally. "At least not in the way you think." His head jerked to the side. "What does that mean?" "It means," she continued, stepping into the weak light of the nearby street lamp, "that I don't need to be the queen of the stars to matter. I thought I was beyond needing something small, something human, but I was wrong." Elias opened his mouth to speak but stopped himself. There was something dangerous in the way she said that, something that told him she wasn't just talking about her responsibilities anymore. She had changed, and in a way, so had he. "We are not meant to exist in isolation," she said, her voice steady now, though it still carried a weight that felt almost unbearable. "I've spent centuries building walls around myself, walls of power, of control, of fear. But I've learned that no empire can stand if it's built on nothing but fear, and no ruler can lead if they don't understand the people they are ruling." Elias didn't speak at first. He just stared at her, the night air cool against his skin, the hum of distant vehicles, and the occasional crash of laughter from a nearby bar all blending together. "So what now? You're giving it all up?" Her gaze met his, and for a moment she seemed as ordinary as anyone else, standing in the flickering light of an Earth street lamp, uncertain and raw. "Not giving it up, changing it, becoming something else, someone else, someone who can listen." He grinned, more to himself than anything else. "You know, you're still terrible at fixing wheelbarrows." She shot him a look, but it wasn't the sharp, commanding stare of a ruler anymore. It was something softer, something that didn't feel like it was about to vaporize him into stardust. "There are some things I'll never be good at," Elias chuckled. "I don't know. I think you'd do well with a few more goats. They've got character." A flicker of amusement passed over her face. "You make everything sound ridiculous." "That's the plan." She smiled. A real smile this time. Not one designed to crack continents, but one that made the space between them feel smaller, warmer. The sudden ping of her comm unit interrupted the moment. She glanced down at it, eyes flickering with something unreadable. "Your ship?" "Olrox," she said, her lips tightening. "He's concerned about the state of my affairs. The galaxy is still waiting for a queen, for an empress. They're not ready to let go of their old dreams." Elias felt the old weight of his world press against his ribs, but it was easier now somehow. "You don't have to be everything for everyone. You know that, right?" "I've always known it," she replied softly, looking up toward the stars. "But I've never believed it." He didn't need to say anything more. He could feel the change in the air, the unspoken understanding between them. She was a queen without a throne now, a ruler of no one and yet everyone all at once. The universe had never been so big, and yet so small. "I think I've learned something from you," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "Something important." "Yeah." He glanced at her sideways. She nodded. "I've spent so long trying to control everything, but it's the small things, the messy things, the unplanned things that make the universe worth having." "And you think that's going to work?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. She shrugged. "I have no idea, but I'm willing to try." He laughed, a genuine sound this time, one that didn't feel forced. "Well, if it all goes to hell, at least we'll have goats. You can't lose with goats." She rolled her eyes but didn't say anything. Together they walked back toward the broken-down settlement. The sky above them was just beginning to streak with the first signs of morning, a soft gradient of pink and gold. The world was still a mess, a beautiful, chaotic mess. But it was theirs, in a way that mattered. Behind them, the far-off hum of the obsidian arc whispered through the silence of the night. A reminder of all the things Verena had once been, and all the things she had chosen to leave behind. The galaxy still needed a ruler. She knew that. But for the first time, it no longer needed her to be anything more than what she was. "I guess I should get back to work," Elias said, pushing open the door to the makeshift shelter. "Work?" she asked. "Yeah," he said with a grin. "We're out of coffee filters." She gave him an amused look. "You are impossible. And you," he said, stepping through the door, "are still the most terrifyingly competent person I've ever met. Flattery will get you nowhere." "It already has," he replied, disappearing inside. Verena stood for a moment longer, watching the stars wink overhead, feeling the weight of her crown still, but lighter now. Somewhere out there, empires still crumbled, and destinies were still being forged. But not hers, not anymore. For the first time in centuries, she let herself feel a quiet peace that was, in itself, a kind of power. The universe would wait, for now she had something better to do.